This is Zerdizzle back with a pretty solid daily round I wanted to walk you guys through because it has some cool holes on it. And before I do that, I wanted to at least give a quick overview of what's in the bag now because I have changed things a little bit. The putters and mid-ranges haven't changed in a while, so my Accurate Sticky Keystone and my Accurate Glide Pure are my forehand throw-in discs, the Keystone, the big one. And then my main putter is the Accurate Windbreak Fuse. And then the Accurate Glide Fuse I use on some holes now, like the Island hole on Lakeside. And then the top row here, again, is not really different from what I've used the last 6 months or so. The Accurate Roll Explorer, my pair of muskets, the Accurate Wind and the Accurate Glide. And of course, my recoil that's been in the bag forever, the Glide Wind. And then this is where things have changed a little bit. I've actually gone back to the Glide Roll Ballista Pro as opposed to the Rive. I mean, I like the extra distance, but I decided to mix it up a little bit. And then the Skip Turn Rive that I recently purchased from the shop. And then this is the big one, the Light Glide Rive. I finally got that. That just got added to the bag a couple days ago. I'm going to try that guy out. And then the Glide Skip Rive. So that Light Glide one, I've only played maybe 10, 15 rounds with it. Still kind of getting used to it. So hole one, we start off on Lost Island. And this one, I had pretty good luck on this one. Again, this is not one you're going to eagle regularly. But I was getting a really, really good drive like this, like 1 out of every 2 or 3 shots. Putting myself in like 130, 140, 150 range. And so I think within the first 5 minutes of doing this layout, I hit basket like 6, 7 times. I mean, I was all over it. But that wind of 3 was throwing me off, so I kept missing left. Once I adjusted a little bit to the right to compensate for that, I started hitting that regularly. And by regularly, I mean once every 5 or 6, which on that hole is pretty damn good. Then we shift over to this hole. So this is Lost Island hole 7. And if you've been watching my channel, I did post a video about how I use the Accurate Wind musket on this hole. And there's a perfect example of it. Just works fantastic for me. So if you want to check that out, you can. It's nothing spectacular. It just kind of walks you through a few examples of why I use that musket. And then this and a few other holes. So hole 8 of Lost Island, this is why I've been using the turn skip. Because watch what it does here. It flattens out right here. But then even with the wind, it doesn't hit hard left. It just kind of finds that straight line and then just skips straight. I really enjoy that. And it reminds me a lot of the turn skip Ballista Pro, but the Ballista Pro would still finish a little left. I find the Rive to be a little more glide and a little straighter. So I think that maybe that has to do with the power. I don't know, but it definitely goes a little bit straighter than the Ballista Pro. So there I threw my Glide Skip Rive to get down here for throw in. And if you're playing this layout, I mean, with the headwind of 3, if you can get down there in the range of 70, I've gotten a little closer, but I mean, that's ideal with a headwind of 3. And then hole 4 here, as we switch over to Oak Hill, I would normally throw a flex forehand, but there's a couple times on this one where I would just get either an awful skip or no skip. And with the roll Rive, I wasn't having as much luck doing what I want to do. So since I've gone back to the Ballista Pro, I love that disc for a roller there. I mean, I can put it inside 60, basically putting range, 65 feet almost every single time, regardless of wind. Like I almost don't even look at the wind to a certain extent. So pretty good start, 3 eagles. This one, surprisingly, of all the 9 holes, I was not having as good a luck. And I think part of that was I'm using this Light Glide Rive, which flies a little different than some of my other discs. I think the Glide Skip goes too far. This used to be a perfect Glide Skip Ballista Pro hole, and I'm still figuring things out. I do like to go forehand on this hole occasionally, but that hole right there out of all the 9 was probably the one I made the most mistakes on. All right, so I've got pretty much for me what I consider a perfect round. And once I got to hole 6, there was no way in hell I was going to try to run this with a tailwind of 3. I mean, if anybody wants to do better than this round, that's a hole where you can definitely do it on. This hole is another one too. If you want to run it, you could probably throw an Accurate Wind musket and give it a run. But again, you might go out of bounds. On the previous hole, it might skip down the hill. For this was my first good run through, so there's no way in hell I was going to try to ace run those. because I would have been pissed. Really, the hardest was going eagle on holes 1 and 3. I mean, that was not as easy as it looks. This hole, I like having the glide roll ballista pro back because the glide roll rive was a little too much disc on this hole. I know some people use some different discs, but I love throwing the roll disc just so it doesn't skip long into the trees. But the rive just it had a little too straight of a flight, and it would have a tendency to kind of glide into the rocks on the right. So I was not having good luck with it. And then we finish things off here, hole 9. This is just my recoil, easy recoil shot with the glide roll ballista, or excuse me, the glide roll rive. I had actually been throwing a forehand shot. That's another video I'll post if you check out my channel. Is if you've got a glide roll rive and you want an easy forehand shot on this hole, check out that video. So there you go. There's the 15 under. Prior to this round, I think there was one other person that had the 15 under, a lot of 14s. I think you got to grind a little bit. And this one took a little longer than I wanted, but I think it was well worth it. So there you go. 2 of us up there at 15. Wouldn't be shocked if there's a few more that eventually get up to 15. I wouldn't even be surprised if I saw a 16 in there. If someone's able to start with that eagle, birdie eagle, and then ace run holes 6 or 7, those par 3s, I think it's doable. I mean, is it worth it? Probably not, but it wouldn't shock me if someone does that. So hopefully you enjoyed. Again, checking out the new bag. We'll see how it turns out, and I'll run some multiplayer rounds to see how it works for me.